What? What? Oh, right. Hey, good to see you guys back again. Today we're going to talk about my rules for finding yourself a great music teacher. What? Oh, we're going to roll the intro now. Hey YouTube, Bruce here again for Blackboard Rules. Today we're going to be talking about a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, probably because I've done a ton of it, and that is teaching, and in particular how to pick a music teacher for yourself or for your son or daughter. You know, back in the Stone Age, they used to just pick up the yellow pages and have a look through that, and that's how they would find the teachers. But today we have a lot more options. First one is online. If you go to any of the platforms like Craigslist or Kijiji, you will find tons of teachers advertising there. And so you really have a lot of them at your fingertips that you can choose from. Another way is to either call or go to your local music store. You know, the great thing about this is that a lot of these stores have their own teaching studios built right into them. So they can recommend teachers because they have them on staff right there. The next way I would say to find a music teacher or a tutor would definitely be by word of mouth. If you have a friend or a neighbor down the block whose son or daughter is taking guitar and they like their teacher, you know what? You can ask them who that teacher is. The good thing about that is these people have already done a lot of the footwork for you. They have already checked out the teacher. They can tell you if the student is happy with the teacher and how the progress is going. The next thing I'd like to talk about is what you should be looking for in a good teacher. And at the very top of my list would be personality. You know what? Every day we meet all kinds of different people, whether it be at your work, or at the mall, or whatever. And right away, as you meet them, you get a certain feeling about them. I call it my gut feeling, and I tend to go by that a lot. In the same way, when you meet the teacher, you know what? Find out if the teacher's patient, find out if the teacher's kind, find out if the teacher can actually relate concepts to the student. You know, a question I would have for any teacher is, what is their ability? Do they have a formal education, or are they self-taught? Both are valid methods. I would also ask them, do you read music, or do you play by ear, or both? You know what? All of these little items add up to making the teacher what they are, and how well, again, they will be able to relate to the student. Some other questions I would have for the teacher are, how long have you been teaching for? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 20 years? The longer a teacher teaches, the better they'll get at it, and the easier it will be for them to relate to their students. You could also ask how many students they have. If they have one student, or do they have 50 students, or somewhere in between. Usually, students won't go to a bad teacher, at least not for very long. You could also ask those students for testimonials, or perhaps, like I used to do as a teacher, I would get testimonials from my students or their parents. And that way I could actually give them to prospective students so they could actually see what I was doing. Something else I would ask a teacher would be about their playing experience. Have they played live? Have they played in front of anybody before? Have they played with a band? Have they played with a solo artist? Have they played in the studio? Have they done recording? These are all very important aspects of being a musician. And so for a teacher to be able to fully teach someone else, it helps if they've had these experiences. You know what? I would stay away from anyone who doesn't have a whole lot of experience playing music. Especially if they want to teach. You know, years ago I had a fellow come up to me and they said, "Hey Bruce, you know what? I think I want to start teaching guitar." I said, "Hey, that sounds great." I said, "Who have you played for?" I said, "Well, I haven't really played for anybody." I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you have any training? How often do you play your instrument?" They said, "Well, I bring it out once in a while during the summer around the campfire, and I know about 3 or 4 songs." And I looked at them and I said, "You know what? Honestly, you might want to consider getting some more training." You see, people who have a little bit of knowledge or people who know a little bit about their instrument can actually cause a lot of grief down the road with students. And it's just because they haven't had a lot of training or experience in the proper way to do things. And I've seen places where they will actually transfer bad habits, bad technique down to students that really hinder the students. You know, it's crucial that you trust your teacher. I wouldn't drop my kid off at just anybody's house, never meeting them. And the same way for teachers. You know, where I live, a lot of the good teachers go out and they get criminal record checks performed. That's where they head over to the local police station, they give the policeman their name and a piece of ID, and the police are able to go into their computer and print off a document that proves that the teacher has never had a run-in with the law before. This is actually a great asset for teachers to have, because they can physically prove to a prospective student or parent of a prospective student that they can feel comfortable in dropping that student off with them for half an hour every week. Let's talk about goals. You know, in life, we set goals, whether it be financial goals or career goals or goals at school. In the same way, a good teacher should be able to set goals for their student. Where do we want to be in 2 weeks? Where do we want to be in 2 months? Where do we want to be in 2 years? The teacher should be able to set up a step-by-step teaching process to help take the student from here to here. There should be measurable, visible progress all along the way. You know, another part of goals is, what does the student want? What do you want if you're learning an instrument? Would you like to be able to play one of your favorite songs in 6 months? Would you like to be able to play in front of an audience? Would you like to go into the studio and play on someone's album? These are all valid things that students will ask. And the student and the teacher need to communicate so they're not butting heads and one person wants to go that way and the other person wants to go that way. Because all that'll do is frustrate the student, and then they'll end up quitting. Structure also goes along with goals. Whenever I teach, the first part of the lesson is spent warming up. Usually the second part of the lesson is spent on reviewing the material from the previous lesson, and then the latter part of the lesson will be actually maybe learning a new skill, or I used to maybe every second week or every third week I would maybe play to some music, just so the student gets used to actually playing along. One of the last aspects I want to finish off with, what you should look for in a good teacher, is price. Obviously, we all know that you get what you pay for. So if you pay $5 for a lesson, you're probably going to get a $5 lesson. A safe range is probably $25 to $40 per half-hour lesson if you are actually going to someone's studio and getting the lesson there. If you're taking an hour lesson, you can usually double that price, or the teacher may want to, knock a few off it just to prorate it down for you. A lot of teachers out there teach one lesson per week. And so what they'll do is they'll charge by the month. So 4 lessons in a month, say, times $25 would be $100 for the month. That is a completely reasonable price to be paying. One thing I want to cover, because I get a lot of questions about this, is what about online lessons? What about buying a DVD set or Blu-ray set and taking my lessons off of that? And while I think that those are great tools to have and great resources, You will never replace the experience of being one-on-one with a teacher in a room where you are able to ask questions, to interact with him or her, and where they can actually show you the proper technique right then and right there. But if you live in an area where there are no teachers around, that may be your only recourse. You may have to take online lessons. Now, if that's the case, then that's what you have to do. Hey, thanks for watching the video. I hope you got something out of it. And if you did, and if you liked it, please give us a big thumbs up down below. Also, you can smack that subscribe button because we have videos, new ones, coming out every Friday to help make your life as a musician and artist a little bit better. So once again, I'm Bruce for Blackboard Rules. Roll that outro!